Hello, and welcome to Billy Bob's Album of the Month. For the month of August in 2023, I am featuring Tubbering's Great Filter album. Fucking phenomenal album. I fucking love this masterpiece. I could have chose any Tubbering album, but I chose that one mainly because it's my fucking kids' favorite album. They fucking know all of them know all the fucking words of the album. So that's the one I'm featuring. I got a hold of Kevin Gibson, and we discussed all fucking sorts of shit. Like we covered all grounds with this thing, and I think it turned out pretty good. And we're about to jump into that shit right now. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't fucking done that shit yet. Click the bell, fucking make some comments, and all that other fucking bullshit. But anyway, let's fucking jump into this shit. It's fucking great. Wow. Let's start from the beginning. How did you first get into music?
Wow. I can't think of a time when I wasn't into music. I remember as a wee child, I think my mom had a box of 45 records, and I used to listen to those all the time. She didn't have many. I didn't come from like a musical family, but 30 or so records, 45 records. I think Rapture by Blondie was in there. Eli's Coming by Three Dog Night. Song used to scare me. But music just always seemed like bigger than what it was. It wasn't just a record and a song on a turntable. There was like a whole world behind it. And I just loved music. And I remember the first two cassettes I bought were where were they? It was Duran Duran Arena, Madness, and Gary Newman, The Pleasure Principle. So it's kind of those kind of all stood the test of time too. I'm still proud of my first cassette purchases. Oh, and Weird Al in 3D. That I'll add that to
Yeah, that's a nice variety for your first couple.
it. And yeah, and now I'm still spend all my money on music.
How did you first decide that you were going to pursue music?
I don't know. I always liked performing. I did like school plays and acting, and music seemed like a logical progression to that, to get in a band. And at like 16 or 17, I put out a little ad in a local music store, or you would go there. It was pre-internet and pre things like that, and just look up at their cork board to see if anybody was looking for musicians. And at the time, all I did was sing, so I'd look for people that were looking for singers, and found a rock band and started playing with that. And we maybe got 3 songs completed, and then we just stopped practicing. And the drummer of that band called me up, and he said he met a new guy, and that band turned out to be Tubbering, which would be my first band. It's Tubbering.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, it was what about time frame was that?
I was a senior in high school, so this was 1992.
So it was the year that Stupid Pet Tricks did come out, then, huh?
Yes, yes, we got together, I think, in August and had that out by October.
That's pretty quick. What do you remember about that Stupid Pet Tricks session?
We recorded it. Jason, our bass player, his dad was a musician, and we recorded it on his dad's little, it wasn't even an 8-track, it was like a 6-track or a 4-track. Back then it was tough to get things recorded. It's so much easier now with computers and how far they've come. But yeah, we just went to his place and recorded our punk rock songs on a 6-track recorder. I think I was given 2 tracks, one to do my main vocals and one to do overdubs. Since then, I like to layer much more than 2 tracks, but that's how. And yeah, and we put out our demo. And then we played our first show, which was a basement party on Halloween. Yeah, 30 years ago. Woo!
That's 31 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I meant to on Halloween we always call that our anniversary because I don't remember exactly when in August or so we started playing. But yeah, so last Halloween would have been our 30th anniversary. I should have made mention of that. For a long time we didn't like to admit how old we were and how long we'd been around. Seemed since we just seemed to cycle fan bases so long. We had like a new fan base every couple of years. We just pretended like we were a new band each time, even though we've been together so long. Plus, I kind of have a joke. I mean, we've changed so much, and the band members have changed so much. Like I'll say, I've been in only 4 bands my whole life. Unfortunately, they've all been called Tubbring.
Or 3, 2, 1, activate.
Yeah, well, not exactly true. I mean, there's been side projects and other things in there, but more making the joke that we're definitely not the same bands that we were way back then, or even a little bit after that, or even a little after that to what we are now. And I can use the instant microwave and think of all the money that's saved. And when I get there, why there's just so much to choose. I forget what I went there to do.
So how much different was the lineup for music for the bathroom? 93 the next year.
I think we had a different drummer at that point. Yeah, the same guys, guitarist, bass player, and me, but with a different drummer. So that was our first lineup change. And then a different. No, maybe we had the same drummer. Then we had another different drummer on our next release, and every release has had different members. Except for if we release something new, I think it'll be the same members for the first time ever. we have a good lineup now. Good guys.
Word. So what do you remember about music from the bathroom?
At the time, we were playing in the Chicago kind of metal scene because metal was big out there, and hair metal was still big way back when. So the places we could get shows would be like hair metal bands and us. But it was also around the time of like music changing and hair metal dying, things like Nirvana coming out and getting big. So the fact that we were a little weirder and punk rock a bit, we actually thrived a bit in that scene. And we had a guy that was big in the Chicago metal scene as a producer, and he liked us and he was going to take us under his wing. So he actually got us into a studio, which a studio back then is still nothing like a studio nowadays. But yeah, I got 4 or 5 tracks for my vocals on that. And yeah, and nothing came of that. Unfortunately, he passed away, not to bring that down in the middle of him helping us make it big. So yeah. So I'm thinking of way past things from 30 years ago. But yeah, I remember it was fun in the studio. It was our first studio time. And we still put it out on cassette because nobody was putting things out on CDs yet. Well, no smaller bands to once again age us and me.
Sorry, I don't mean to keep doing that to you, buddy.
No, it's quite okay. I've I've come to terms with that. With a lot of things, like songs that B-sides that I used to hate and hope no one ever heard because they were terrible. Now it's warts and all. People can, at this point, I think they know what we sound like and what we're about. So you
Oh,
can hear all old guys that.
Where was he going to? What was on the other side? What was he thinking when he got hit and died? Yeah. And then made me laugh.
don't worry. Here in a second when we're talking about mashed potato etiquette, I'm not going to bring up the bonus tracks.
Oh no, that's the best part of the CD, actually.
Oh no, the dead things on the side of the road that made me laugh is the best part of that CD.
Well, thanks. That one's all me. I used to sing that at high school parties. I was to impress chicks.
Did it ever work?
No, it didn't work very well, but yeah.
But yeah. There's even somebody even covered that song up on the YouTube.
Really?
Yeah,
I heard that. I think I have heard it. Yeah.
It was quite a few years ago.
Yeah, I think.
Shit.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly, but I think I actually know the guy. Not know him, but he might have sent it to me, and that's humorous.
I'm gonna do a quick Google search, and now I can't find that shit.
No.
I guess it was some years ago that I did come across it.
Yeah, it's probably not on YouTube.
I think that's where I found it though. Shit.
Really?
I don't know.
Maybe it is then.
So mashed potato etiquette. Tell me a bit about that one.
We were kind of still in the same mindset as Music for the Bathroom, and that was our first full-length CD, and we were going to take it a little more serious, and we did go to a better studio. But I think as soon as it came out, that's when we realized we needed to change. We didn't like what we were doing anymore. It was like we were losing a bit. We started off, we came from like a punk rock background, and then we started getting a little funky and weirder, but it was jokey. And I used to write, all the things you're saying, there were a lot more jokey lyrics, which is odd because for the most part, I don't like jokey lyrics or jokey songs. And I think I would do it just my own insecurity that if my lyrics aren't good enough, then, they're all jokes anyway. And I think at about that point realized, well, that's lame. And it's time to kind of step up and find something different to do. So I think that was kind of after that, the first time we kind of changed our sound and we started going for a different sound every album.
Yeah, it did start getting quite a bit more bungly after that.
Yeah, that's when we added keyboards and more different sounds. And I think, we obviously picked up the Bungle CD and were influenced by that a lot.
Well, we all were. I mean,
yeah, I remember buying that cassette. Not to sound like old guy because I don't like the phrase kids these days, or when they say something like, oh, they'll never know that, like, because people change and they'll say that about their kids and it's just life goes on. That being said, back then, the small amount of money I had, I would buy maybe one or two cassettes every week. I had a fast food job, and my $40 every 2-week paycheck went to gas and 2 cassettes every 2 weeks or so. And that week I bought Mr. Bungle, and when I first put it in, I did not like it. I'm like, I wasted my week money on a cassette. But because it was a form of music and there was no internet around then, I gave it more of a listen, and it grew on me and obviously became a big influence. Which, like I said, nowadays it's real easy if you're just on Spotify to go click, don't like it, click, oh, this is better. And you might not give things a second or third chance, but the world turns.
Yeah, this is how we became album people back in the day. Was Right, you'd
Definitely.
spend all that money on a CD, and it's like, well, if every track on this CD is not good, then why do I even listen to it? It better all be good.
Yeah, definitely. That makes sense. Couldn't have one or two singles. I
Yeah,
mean, you could, but
and
the
then
rest
kids
of
these
the
days never listen to a whole album. They only hear the couple of songs because their YouTube automatically generates them a playlist.
but who knows what they'll be saying about the next 30 years? Like, these kids, they don't know what a playlist was.
Yeah, the cloud didn't just attach straight into the brain. They had to
Right.
actually click on shit.
They
So
only listen to a snippet of a song, and then that gets. Although I've kind of always done that too. A snippet of a song will get the whole song stuck in my head, and that's enough if I'm on like a short drive. I can listen to 30 seconds of a song, and then I feel like I've gotten all those songs in my brain. Go on with the day.
So many different ways to catch a disease. So I avoid the germs looking for me. Convince myself that I'm the only one sane. Even when I know I have nothing to gain. Even when I know I have nothing to. And I'll reinforce my basement.
So let's move on to what I consider to be the first Tubbering album.
Okay.
1997's Super Sci-Fi Samurai Rockstar Ultra Turbo 2 version 3.6.
Right. Okay. So yeah, we realized after Mashed Potato we had to step up our game. We actually got a keyboardist that wasn't Rob, and he was only in the band for a short period of time. And then I had met Rob before and asked him if he wanted to be in the band. He didn't play keyboards or anything. He played guitar, and he's actually an excellent guitarist. He's one of the best guitarists Tubbering has ever had, but he's like, sure, I can learn keyboard. And yeah, and that changed our sound a lot. And we just started going in that direction more. Eventually, he became kind of the primary music writer. I was the lyricist. But that was the start of it. That was kind of when we realized we wanted to do something a little different. There's a song on there called Malabsorptive, which is just kind of noisy that I was singing through like a toy megaphone thing. And we still had a few of the older fans that would come. And I remember we would do an extended version of that lasted for like 15 minutes at our shows early on when we came back, and that would pretty much clear the room. And I think we were kind of going for that just to kind of shift gears a bit. But it's weird. We were doing stuff like that on purpose, but at the same time we'd be done. We're like, oh, people weren't into it as much when we were playing 15 minutes of noise. But so yeah, that's I don't consider that our first. I don't know what to consider our first album. We got on an indie label, and we call, you'll ask about it next, Drake Equation our first album, but it wasn't any different mindset or recording process than anything else we had put up to that point. We paid for it, picked the studio, went to it, as the same as all of our other albums. So all right, it's our first album. So that counts.
Well, I consider it the first album because that is truly where you first started forming your Tubbering sound that would like still prevail throughout all the other albums, despite the fact that they all shift genres. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're saying. Thank you. Yes, that's the first time we said, let's, like I said, step it up. I kind of started getting the science theme. I'd always liked science and kind of looking for a direction to go, and hitting on that went well. So that kind of was born there, and the weirder music was born there. So sure, that's the first time the band became another band, just still called Tubbering.
You look like you need a good talking to about the way things are and the what it's about. And I think you should take a little time off to reflect upon your goals and to work things out. But my plan is nothing like that, to the point I don't approve it.
I love it. I love it. Right. I even love it when the band Tubbering calls themselves 321 Activate and just plays a different set of songs.
Yeah, that didn't I don't know if you have a question of that coming up. I'll tell you that story. So we had played, we were touring at that point as Tubbering, and we were getting bigger and bigger, and we were opening up bigger shows. And we had the guy that was kind of the Svengali behind Disturbed and Evanescence and a few of other bands. I already forget the label they were all on. But he saw us and he was into us. Like, hey, would you like to work with me? And told us like what he did for Disturbed and Evanescence and worked on him. He's like, would you like me to work with you? And yeah. He's like, first thing first, I don't know, like, would you mind changing your name? We're like, no problem. We always hated our name. We're like, yeah, if you want to start over new, we'll come up with a new name. So we came up with 321 Activate. And basically, it was just going to be Tubbering with a new name. Then the next tragedy there, his best friend and another band he was working with that he got a lot of his income with to work on bands was Damage Plan. So when Dimebag Darrell was shot, that was a few months later, that affected our career. He was devastated, and he's like, I just don't really have it in me to do music anymore. So Dimebag Darrell getting shot directly affected Tubbering's career, and so he stopped working with that. And we kept the name 321 Activate, but at this time we decided we'll just make it a whole new band. And we went on one tour, and nobody was coming out, and nobody cared. But we were still probably going to stick with it. I mean, it's not like we were ever a big band otherwise. But then MTV came calling to do their what it was, the Do Circuit breakout thing. Yeah. And we're like, well, Tubbering's, they called for Tubbering. We're like, we're not a band anymore. Would you be interested in 321 Activate? Like, no. Like, fuck it then. Let's just be Tubbering again. So
wait.
That's how
So you're saying that after Zoo Hypothesis, you're like, we're not Tubbering anymore?
Well, that was the next change. We were touring so much. We were out on the road 9 months out of the year or more for like every year. So it's hard to get, if you're not making big money or anything, which we weren't. We were making just enough to survive by staying on the road. It's hard to get people that are willing to just not have a life and do that. So the band after Zoo Hypothesis was a bit falling apart. We lost our drummer right before that, and our guitarist and bass player. So we kind of got all new members. So it was a bit of, the band was changing anyway, and it was just Rob and I, even though we wrote all the songs and did everything, we didn't, with the other guys gone, it didn't really feel like the same band. So that's why I became part of why I became 321 Activate. And then when MTV came calling.
Because Jason left, and then you recruited Trevor to replace him. And
correct. So they were all 321 Activate at first. And that's when we started writing. We're, like I say, at first it was going to be Tubbering, then it was 321 Activate, its own thing. We were going to play a little more weirder, like poppier, but with keyboards, electronic pop, kind of what we were going for. And then we just became Tubbering again. Dropped most of those songs.
Well, that's awesome.
So that would be the third incarnation of Tubbering.
Yeah. So I'm gonna edit this to make it all sequence, because I'm gonna jump back in some questions.
Okay.
Because that was a great story, but it kind of jumped ahead on me.
You got it.
The people and the buildings and the ground began to blend. And I thought instead of numbers, I had the dream again, the one where I was forced to take the train.
Okay, so let's go back to 2001. Both Drake Equation and Book of Water come out that year.
Drake Equation, we had actually finished in the end of 99, maybe, or 2000. And we put it out ourselves, just like the other ones. And that's when we played a show, and Underground Inc., which is Invisible Records, they're a big industrial label out of
Marty.
Chicago. Yes, Martin Atkins. So it was odd for us to be on an industrial label, and Pigface was putting stuff out on there and a lot of like, but of course we would do it. So they took Drake Equation and re-released it. So that's why it was a 2001 release. And then we played another show with a band from Japan. They were out on some weird tour and we got double booked with them. And we all got to the club and they had like 3 bands and we had 3 bands and the club didn't know what was going on. So we're like, screw it. We'll just play 6 bands instead of 3. And we got along really well with them. So their label head was touring with them from Japan. And he's like, I have a label out in Japan called Bad News Records. If you want to be on it, we can put out your next album out there to get a Japanese release. Do you have anything you can give us right now to make for a Japanese release? Because that was big at the time. And so we put together whatever scraps we had, and that became Book of Water. And it was putting together scraps, I mean, demo versions and things we wouldn't normally release, but that's where that came from.
It was a nice compilation.
Thanks.
Yeah. So that was fascinating. I didn't even realize that you were on Marty's record label, Martin Atkins.
Yeah.
That guy's the shit.
It was good. I mean, I don't think they ever knew how to promote us or do anything. But as time has told, no label we've been on has known how to promote us or do anything. So. Yeah.
You were on MTV2 once.
True. That was not through the label though. That was through our partnership with Mountain Dew, Amp Mountain Dew. That was one of the best things to ever happen to us. We got hooked up with them, and they were doing mostly like emo bands and stuff at the time, because emo bands were big at the time. And they would have something, if you played one of their markets, an Amp Energy market, they would put on commercials on the radio like Amp Energy Drink presents Tub Ring, and they would give us an extra $500 or something for the show, because just to say Amp Energy Drink presents. So we would just schedule all tours around hitting all of their markets and then just hit all of their markets again, just so we could somewhat make money and a living at being it. And then through that, that's how, because it was the Amp, whatever, the MTV thing we were on. So they hooked that up. That's how, when they were up calling for Tub Ring, we were 3, 2, and Activate in that small period of time. It's just weird.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, it was called the Dew Circuit Breakout, as in Mountain Dew and Amp. Yeah. That's how we got set up with bands like Hello Goodbye and Newfound Glory, which
what was that? Was that video footage on the Sonic CD from that?
No, it was on a different CD, because MTV stuff would obviously be copywritten. So we put it out as just a burned CD thing that we would sell at shows, called Proverbially Speaking.
Word.
And then we tried to put it up on YouTube a few times, and it gets a copyright thing each time. I think one of them stayed on. And I think what the secret is, I was thinking about that the other day, is that there's a little watermark in the side, an MTV2 watermark, because there's no way they have every random thing they ever have. So maybe I should try putting it back up just with the watermark removed, and maybe that'll get past the copyright things.
We can only hope, right?
Negative one as we spin around the sun, and you know that I did it all for you. For you.
So let's talk about Fermi Paradox for a minute. We've glazed over that somehow.
I don't think we got to it yet. Oh yeah, whatever. Fermi Paradox, our follow-up to Drake Equation. I think we were in a big hurry to put out new music at that point because we were tired of Drake Equation because we had already been playing it for a year and a half, which isn't that long, but we just wanted to keep writing songs and put stuff out. So yeah, so we did that. I think there was maybe 2 or 3 songs on it that were decent. We probably shouldn't have been in a rush to put something else out. Wasn't necessarily bad, but I think we should have taken a little more time with Fermi Paradox.
That crushes me on the inside because I love that album.
Really? Well, that's good. I've said that before. That's my opinion. And if somebody else gets, even if I wrote the songs, if somebody else gets something out of it that I don't like, that'll make me reconsider. It's like, all right, well, maybe I'm being a little too harsh on myself. So if you like that, good. Maybe I'm being a little too harsh.
It was me and my buddy Mike Snyder discovered Tubbering at the same time at his house in 2005, I want to say. And he got both of those off of Amazon, and we fucking played the shit out of those 2 albums, right? So yes, I love that album.
Well,
right?
good. All right. Well, then it wasn't a waste.
Right.
There was an average Monday. There was a movie star. There was a man with a gun. There was a getaway car. There was a moment's confusion when all hell broke loose. There was immediate action. There was nothing left to do.
2 Hypotheses got all metally. That was a fucking great album. Tell me a bit about that one.
That I think is my favorite album of ours. Yeah, we went kind of a little more back to our punk roots. That was also written on the road almost exclusively because at that time we were on the road for 9 months out of the year or so. So sound checks or hotel rooms or something, we would be writing a lot of that. And I think that naturally made it a little heavier and faster because we would do the songs and then start playing them out right away. And we weren't playing a drum machine or click track or anything. So they would all just start getting faster and heavier because it translated well live. So I think that had a lot to do with the heavier sound. Not that I would steer away from that. I like heavy and fast music. So yeah, I think it turned out well for what we were going for. That one I'm happy with.
Me too. I love that album.
There was a vision focused through a composition that the chemically imbalanced would know. And over they said it's over and done with, and then the choices of the few made it so.
And the follow-up to that album, I'm going to glaze over the Sonic because that was just another compilation. But The Great Filter was a fucking great album. And it was actually the first time I actually got to see Tubbering live. I think I saw you guys 3 or 4 times on that tour.
Really?
Yeah.
That was another one I wish we would have spent a little more time on. Although we spent a lot of time on that. We wrote like 30 songs, and it was the new band and everything, even though it was still the same songwriters, Rob and I think it took us a while to get our groove, and I think we got it around the end of it, but there are some songs on there I don't even think about. I don't know. I don't even consider, but there's some decent stuff. I actually, we did our Tubbering video thing, and I said it was our worst album, and I've listened to it again since then, and I don't think it's our worst album. I think I've put it up a notch, maybe even 2 notches. I think maybe I was a little harsher on that than I should have been, but artists get their own worst critics, and I like, there's stuff I've done that I like, and there's stuff that I've done that I don't, and they both landed on Fermi and The Great Filter.
Well, what's funny is when I bought that album from you, I was nervous about it, and you're like, I promise this is the best thing that we've done so far, is what you have told me when
Really?
I was buying it. Yeah.
Was that me or Rob?
I think it was you.
Rob might have said,
because you signed it and everything for me.
Huh. Interesting. Because I wasn't even a big fan of it when, right when we were releasing it. I guess I just lied to you to take your money.
You sold it. You sold me on it. You sold me on it, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It was a great album. It's my kids' favorite Tubbering album.
Really?
Yeah, they can sing every word off that album from beginning to end. All three of
Wow.
them.
Well, good. Yeah, it's grown on me more. Might have just been the place the band was in too at the time that I have negative views, because that's one of our like changing band members and changing everything again. So I also think the production was a little not bad, but boring. The production on it's sandwiched in between Zoo Hypothesis and then Secret Handshakes, which we had great producers on Zoo Hypothesis, Brooks Brothers, and then Rob started taking over production duty on Secret Handshakes. And that in the middle was kind of more, we went to the studio, played our rock songs, and that's what ended up on the disc. We didn't do any kind of studio trickery, which I like, which I know is not very punk rock of me to say, but I'm a big fan of studio trickery, which we didn't do much of on that one.
We don't have to be punk rock now. We're all old enough.
Yeah.
The pictures are not your best. I'm trying, but I confess. The truth is I'm searching to find your location and finally to hear you and your explanation. Let's close out this chapter and put all the voices to rest.
But yeah, let's move on to Secret Handshake because we're running out of time. I don't know if you noticed.
Yeah, I see that 4 minutes left.
Yeah.
All right. I talk a lot.
Secret Handshake, that was a pretty good album, though. That one ranks a little low on my Tubbering list.
That one ranks low on a lot of people's list, but it ranks high on mine and Rob's list. We both like that a lot. We took our time. We wrote the songs we wanted to, recorded it ourselves. And we change our sound almost every album anyway. So if you like something or don't like it, you don't have to worry about us doing more or less of it. We're going to do whatever we're going to do anyway. But yeah, that was the album we wanted to put out, and we were pretty happy with it.
My only qualm with it is that it came out at around the same time that Rob put out that Satanics CD, and the sound between that Tubbering album and the Satanics were closer to each other than that Tubbering album and any other Tubbering album.
Interesting.
I
guess that's Rob finding his style then.
Yeah.
And that can, obviously if it's going to be one person writing, doing everything, and then Rob, it's going to sound a certain way. When you get the two of us together, it's going to, I don't know. I'll put my touch onto whatever his songs are.
It's a good album, and it did grow on me after time, but it took it a minute for it to, for me to find that spot,
Yeah, unfortunately, that was the consensus, but we were happy with it. Still,
Confines a spirit terrestrial. So once you leave their orbit, you're good to go. So I say, I know the future's free. We're not a relic of the past. And I know we're built for speed, and I know we're built to last.
The follow-up album to that is after that nice 7-year-long break you took, Choice of Catastrophes. That was a phenomenal album. I love that one. Right.
Thank you. Yeah, that was we did our Kickstarter for a best of, and then we said maybe we'll write a couple more songs. And by the time the Kickstarter was done, we did pretty well, so we had enough money to put the band back together. We got our old bass player from the beginning back, Jason. Our guitarist for the last two albums, Patrick, played on it. We had a new drummer, Sean Motley, who's still in the band, and our old drummer came back too. So we had two drummers on it. And everyone in the band now is proficient at writing complete songs and just doing it on computers. So that's what I said, like the lineup we have now are just musicians that can go in and write things right away. So yeah, we gave ourselves 2 weeks in the studio. We wrote the album in the studio, which is like what cool professional bands do. We got to do that, and that's what came out. And I was really happy with that one too, how it came out. Obviously, you're thinking after a 7-year hiatus, how's this going to go? But it was like riding a bike.
Oh, it was a great album. It was freaking great.
Thank you.
Thank you. And when you say things like currently in the band, that means that tubbering, there's still potential for more tubbering in the future.
There's still potential for more tubbering in the future. I mean, I got about 20 songs sitting on my computer right now that I need to finish lyrics for. And so, yes, in the near future, actually.
That's fucking awesome. That's awesome. It was at this point in time that we fucking ran out of time. And we were both saddened at the fact that we did not get to discuss any of all the fucking Super 8-Bit Brothers. And seeing as that they just fucking released 5 more albums, we had to fucking do another one. So I'm about to fucking jump into that right now. We're fucking our Super 8-Bit Brothers chunk of the interview. Enjoy.
Princess is in another castle, baby. Oh no, I don't mind the hassle, ladies. So I'll leap to the streets and try to grab mushrooms to eat. Yeah, my princess is in another castle.
Jump in? Just jump in.
Yeah, let's just jump in. Tell me, how did Super 8-Bit Brothers first come about?
Well, Rob and I lived together, and we bought some equipment to try to record some things, like an 8-track just to demo songs. And we did some electronic stuff. And this, I think we started in like 1998. And at the time, there were 0 video game bands or video game inspired bands. There was Pac-Man Fever and something about Frogger or something, but one song, but no actually bands dedicated to that. So we thought we were onto something. And I think we were originally going to call it Joystick, but we didn't, and went with Super 8-Bit Brothers because it was like Super Mario Brothers. And that, just like Tubbering, we've kind of regretted that name because we get all the time, you aren't 8-bit, you aren't chiptune. But when we made the band, there was no chiptune or 8-bit around at the time. And in fact, we'll argue we are the first video game inspired band. No one was doing it at the time. We thought we were onto something new. And obviously there's a huge scene now with conventions and whatnot, but I'm going to stick to that. We were the first. Yeah, so we did some songs. I think the original idea was to make songs about imaginary video games. So we'd make something that sounds like it's about something, but it was an imaginary video game. And then eventually the world of video games is just so huge that we could write about anything. So it became more of I'm a big fan of electronic music. So it became more of, if we wanted to do electronic stuff, that fell under the Super 8-Bit Brother umbrella, and more the weird rock with electronics too was Tubbering. So yeah, we just did that for a while. Now Rob and I live next to each other again. He moved to LA. I was still in Chicago, but when I moved to LA, it made it easier. And both of it, well, Rob obviously knows how to use studio stuff. He's a genius at all that. And I started learning all that. So I was writing my songs and he was writing his songs. And while we were out here, we just, so we wrote like 5 albums of material. And that stuff's easy to record because we don't have to get a bunch of guys together. It's just me and him, and we can do it all on the computer. Granted, he's got a studio too, so I'd go there and do all my vocals at his house. And then we put that out, and we had 5 albums worth of material. And I was really excited about it. We put it out, and how did I put it? People were aggressively apathetic towards it. But hey, I like it.
Yeah, it's fun. It was fun. And in rapid, I didn't even realize so much had come out, but it was like the first one came out, and I was like, well, that's fucking awesome. And then it was like 3 months later, I was like, oh shit, there's fucking 3 other ones. But I digress from the initial. Tell me about first level. That your first demo.
That was our first recording on an 8-track in our house. Probably did it around 1998, 1999. We played a few shows. We ended up at weird bars in Chicago where people were not exactly ready to hear what we were doing. We played a bar and there was a club next door, and we went in and we started talking to like these 3 hot club girls. I'm like, hey, you want to come next door and dance for us? We'll like put on this weird electronic show about video games, and they were down. So we gave them like alien masks and everything, and they danced to it. We figured we needed to have something more, because who wants to just see 2 guys singing along to like backing tracks? That seems so bizarre back then. Although it's way more common now. But we thought we had to like throw all those things together, try to entertain people. And then after a while, yeah, just so, like we would bring our 8-track with us to play all the tracks while we were singing. And then eventually our backing tracks just became a CD. I'd put on a non-skip CD player, and we were basically just doing karaoke. And then we did a couple tours where we actually brought all the electronics, and that was a big hassle to bring everywhere and like try to play everything to make us look like musicians. And then I think in the last iteration of it, it was more I was using kind of a Ableton DJ setup and was kind of DJing the music while we would sing, and then Rob had a whole bunch of electronic fun stuff to like play over that. But yeah, it was fun. We did a few tours with that. It's easy to play with because, like I said, it's just me and Rob, and we could get in a car and go on a tour and not need a trailer or a bus or anything with a bunch of guys. We could just drive to a show, play a set, and drive to the next state.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I like heavy metal music when I grab the sniper rifle and I frag you with a headshot. Yeah. See, yeah.
I am a big fan. Let's see. I first came across Super 8. I got Melee back in the day, right? Which I love your tubbering cover. Like, would you call that a tubbering cover? Yeah, that's a tubbering cover.
Yeah, it's a tubbering cover.
Yeah, the Coca-Cola song.
Yes, the Coca-Cola song by the Wax Tadpole. When we didn't discuss it, we were recording Drake Equation. Trey was producing it. Trey Spruance of Mr. Bungle. We were doing that song, and Rob had told me he just found out that L7. Oh, nice. L7 also had a song called Bite the Wax Tadpole. But it was just kind of more of a noise crash song, and they would just repeat Bite the Wax Tadpole over and over again. I'm like, that's interesting. I'm not going to change the name or anything. Trey's like, well, what is that? He thought we were just putting weird words together, but then explained to the story of that was what Coca-Cola was called when it went to Japan, and that's how it translated. And then they translated something different now, and now I think no, that's Pepsi. That's like happiness in the mouth. It's funny the weird things that translate or don't translate. But yeah, that's what Bite the Wax Tadpole is.
Yeah. I first learned about that in marketing class, and I was like, wait, that's a tubbering song. But yeah, Melee was a great album. Let's discuss a little bit about it other than the tubbering cover.
Sure. Well, we were also big Smash Brothers fans, Super Smash Brothers, which is also like Super 8-Bit Brothers. So first album was just the first album, although I don't think even the original Smash Brothers was out yet when we first did that. But then by the time we focused on tubbering, and then 6 years later we had some time to go back to Super 8-Bit Brothers. So the next Smash Brothers was called Melee, so we just called our album that. Then Brawl was the next album. Sorry, skip ahead, because that was the next Super Smash Brothers. And then there was not a third one out yet, or a fourth one, but rumors were it was called Strife. It was going to be called Strife, so that's why we called the third one Strife. And then when we did these last 5, I was gonna stay on that, make them Ultimate or Riot or something like those were ideas. But then when we got all those albums done and realized we could split it into like 5 things, I tried to come up with something to kind of make a concept. So that's what we went with the elements, with the fire, air, earth, and water. But yeah, sorry, back to Melee. I go off on tangents a lot. We were touring a lot with Mindless Self-Indulgence. We had just started that, and they asked us last minute once to tour. And also, this was a tour that Rob was filling in for Lindsay because her chest collapsed at a show or something. She could hardly breathe, so they had Rob fill in and play the bass, and they needed an opening act. And Rob's like, well, we could just get Kevin on the bus with us and we can open up with Super 8-Bit Brothers, just some fun little thing we do. So I jumped in. We had a few more songs at that point. We quickly pressed an album, Melee, to sell. We put the old songs from First Level on there just to fill it up. And we played a few shows with them. And it was goofy because granted, they played a backing tracks too, but they have a band, and we're still a bit with that idea, like we're just going to be up there doing karaoke, and their Mindless Self-Indulgence shows. There's like a few thousand kids there, but they went well, so people accepted it, and that's how Melee came about.
I'm a space invader, a flight simulator, lost ark raider, action in the elevator, outer space, a mega race, a 2600 refugee.
And to cut you off, if you ask it, I'll just move on to the next one. Brawl.
There was a nice gap
later
there.
on. Yeah, this is later on in Tubrang's career, and we had got signed by the N Records, which is part of Sony and everything. And they decided to sign Super 8-Bit Brothers too. So it's kind of a pseudo major label. So we got an album put out on a major label, which was weird with Super 8-Bit Brothers. But it was fun.
I don't know who was in charge of End Records during that time, but there was a bunch of really good bands on there for a short period of time.
Yeah, they decided they were doing like death metal and doom metal for a while, and then they went crazy and said, let's sign all the weirdo kind of bands. So they signed Mindless Self-Indulgence and Us, and Stolen Babies, I think, was on it.
Yeah.
A few Stratosphere, they put something on it? Maybe they didn't. Or
Was
Sleepy Time
their last album?
I'm sorry?
It could have been their last album.
Could have been. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, I apologize to both the End and Stratosphere. But Sleepy Time Museum was on it.
Yeah, sorry, Tim. I should know that.
I actually see Jason a lot out here. Good guy. So yeah, that was weird. That's another first video game band on a real label and whatnot.
Don't take me back to the start. Don't take me back to the start. Don't take me back. Don't take me back. Don't take me back to the start. Don't take me back to the start. Don't take me back.
And then we moved on. That's when I started really getting heavily into electronic music, and I still love electronic music. And right around when Rob was moving and Tubring was kind of ending, I started learning electronic stuff a little more, and that Strife was kind of thrown together with stuff that we were working on, and it kind of became our more lesser known album. Didn't really have like a good proper release.
Yeah,
and then
I didn't know about it for like 3 or 4 years after it came out.
It's a secret album.
Yeah, and I thought I knew everything, man. I thought I tracked everything.
But yeah, I like the stuff on Strife. It's a shame it became kind of a lesser known one.
So
and then the new stuff, I really like. Obviously, we just did it, so yeah, I think most musicians you would talk to hopefully they like their newest stuff the best. So
So
went a little more crazy.
pull you away from that for a second. You just said you started learning a bunch of how to do the electronic stuff. Strife came out in 2012, but in 2011 there was a Tubbering remix album that I didn't even bring up before because it's the one Tubbering album that I am missing, the remix album Velocity of Progress. Were you learning how to do the electronic stuff with that Velocity of Progress, or what's the story behind that album?
No, that was just an idea to put out a remix album. It's a varying quality. I don't listen to that much, to be honest. It's not exactly the electronic that I like. I like the cheesy builds and drops and whatnot, and there wasn't much on there of that. But it was fun. I mean, we had some friends do some really cool remixes and bands and whatnot. But yeah, that's also kind of a lesser known release. But it's cool to put out a remix album.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's the one that I'm missing. So I had to even Google it today to figure out what the name of the album was because it's not in the collection, and it's like, well, that's not up on the YouTube or anything. That's the one I haven't heard yet.
There is a Tubbering song on there that we didn't release on Secret Handshakes that we liked. We would have, but it's another one that we kind of finished last minute. So it's kind of cool for that. It's called Here Come the Fuzz. And so we have the Tubbering version and then a remix of it.
Oh, wait. I'm in my
looking at I think it's like 6 or 7.
No, I'm looking in my miscellaneous Tubbering folder. I got all sorts of hidden stuff. I took your cover of you have a backwards cover of Black Flag that I flipped around so I could hear it properly. Then I got some random song called All Your Cities Belong to Us.
That is from the remix. That's from I think that's a Touching the Enemy remix.
Yeah.
I think that's the one that Lee from Daiquiri did. That one's really good.
Yeah, I got a folder of nothing but miscellaneous Tubbering that you might even be jealous of. I got some MP3s.
Don't be so quick to walk away. Dance with me and wanna rock your body to the break of day. Dance with me and you don't have to admit to wanna play. Dance with me and wanna rock your body to the break of day.
No, even better yet. I think I got the video for that MTV2 Do Circuit Outbreak. I just clicked on that and it says video capture here. You did Future Was Free and Rock Your Body.
We did.
Yeah.
That was a good time. We went into it thinking we could win. And once we were there, we realized we would not be winning it, no matter how well we did. It was kind of set up from the beginning. So coming in second was actually like winning. That's the best you could do without winning. There's some funny things on that. Like they told us in the beginning they're going to judge us on our original song and then a cover song. They're going to be judging us. And we did a run through before we actually did it. It was live. And not to sound cocky, but our cover was way better than the other band was doing. And originally, when we did the run through, they talked about how important a cover song is and how you can judge a band on a cover song. And then we ran through it, and the other band was supposed to win from the beginning. So they changed all the dialogue. They're like, well, can't really judge a band on a cover. It's good to hear, but like, damn. So we're not winning this, are we? But it was fun. Gave us a lot of exposure. And that was that, yeah. But they did give us, Justin Timberlake. They gave us like 3 days before we had to fly out to New York to learn it. But at that time, and even now, we do pop cover songs all the time, so it was like, okay, easy, yeah. Justin Timberlake sounds great.
So they picked the JT song.
They did. Yes, it wasn't us.
I thought
And
somebody.
I'm sure glad the other ones they gave to the other bands. It almost, I don't know why they gave like Ashley Simpson and something else that was like bad, and like they gave us Justin Timberlake. It's like cool.
I thought maybe one of you guys was a secret JT fan.
At what was that at that time? Justified. That's a great album. Not a secret JT fan. When he was putting out his good stuff, I was always impressed with his. I like good pop music, good intricate pop music. I've always been a fan of. So yes, call me a JT fan.
It's out there now. Yeah, the truth has been exposed.
Yeah.
Fast track, $1 million on the NASDAQ, rock you like a hurricane. Yeah, we got the end game. Slide innuendo, Super Nintendo, here in my dojo, 9120. ROB, that's me. Best things in life I download for free.
Word. So let's talk about your new albums, because we talked about all of them up to, like, we've even touched base on your Elemental albums. But what made you go with Elemental Theme?
4 albums, and then I thought for a while, what is something that's like a group of 4? Thought about the 4 Horsemen, but I don't know if I wanted to name like a Super 8-Bit Brother album, Pestilence and Death. Death would have kind of been funny as a Super 8-Bit Brother album, but I don't know about Famine or Pestilence. So really the only other thing, obvious, were the Basic Elements there. And then the 5th album is kind of at the last minute. Rob's like, just do acoustic versions of our old stuff. So that's how that came the 5th. But yeah, it wasn't anything deeper than, if you have a set of 4 things that you need to title, what's a good group of 4 things that people put together? And Basic Elements. And Fire is a good name for electronic albums, since people call things fire. It's cool, hip slang. That show was fire.
That album is fire.
Thank you. Surprise everyone with like not announcing it and just put out Fire. And then a week after it was out, I think one of the original ideas was to put 2 albums and release one and then wait a month and then release a second one. But then it just expanded. We had more and more stuff, so it became 4. And our fans were nice, and they were surprised, and it was cool that we released it, and then it came out, and that was that. I don't know, even people that liked it, it was kind of like, cool, good job, next. Whatever. We'll see when I'm in the mood to release another Super 8-Bit Brother album. I wanted to do that. I wanted to do Super 8-Bit Brothers before another Tubbering album. Somewhere in the back of my head, just before that, I wanted to kind of cleanse the palate and do some electronic stuff. So now I'm ready to head back to do some Tubbering.
So, like, but that was a mass amount of songs. And then when we talked the other day, you said you're already sitting on a mass amount of Tubbering songs.
Yes.
Like, do you still have another small cachet of Super 8-Bit Brothers that's already...
No, I don't. In fact, at the end, we had to like throw together a couple things real fast just to fit enough for 4 albums, because we started releasing them before we were done. So no B-sides or anything. Pretty much everything we wrote ended up on something. New Tubbering, I'm sure we'll have some B-sides, or just things I don't get to. When you have that many songs, for me, luckily I can pick and choose of what I feel like I hear lyrics to right away. We'll see if I get down to writing any music, actual songs myself, because I can do that now. But I still like some with Tubbering, just sitting back and just focusing on lyrics and vocals. Since, like I said, we have such great musicians in the band now, I'm blessed to get to work with them.
Right, and your lyrics are fucking phenomenal. Like, I now know too much of pi because of numbers, you know.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I can cheat too. You're showing tattoos. I have pi tattooed there. So
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's nice. So what the fuck you think of that shit? That was fucking full of great information. Huge, fucking biggest interview I've done so far. Fucking, I don't know how long it's gonna turn out, but that's fucking massive interview. So make sure to follow all of the Super 8-Bit Brothers and Tubbering social media. Keep track of their fucking band camp, because apparently there's gonna be some new Tubbering coming out relatively soon, and fucking, who doesn't love them some fucking new Tubbering? I mean, shit, yeah. Once again, like, subscribe, comment, bell, fucking all that other shit, and I'll see you next month.